He's been good, been really good. And being a Chelsea boy as well, it means a lot. You've got someone come through the academy. It's a big plus for him. I thought it was good at the weekend again.
It's the duels and it's the headers and the tackles, the interceptions. This is one of the most complete footballers on the planet.
Some of his bugbears internally and some of the issues that he has had have actually been brewing for quite some time.
Cole Palmer, let me remind you.
There's the little things that almost we take for granted now, where he is just sizing a player up and he'll nutmeg him, or he'll just literally just flick it round the corner and run off. And the IQ that he plays with is just ridiculous.
We need him. We've got massive games coming up. Not just domestic, but European games, well, huge games. We need a fit Cole Palmer.
Welcome to Inside Chelsea, the show for Chelsea fans by Chelsea fans. This show is brought to you by talkSPORT Bet. I'm Olivia Buzaglo and I'm joined by former Chelsea defender Jason Cundy and broadcaster and lifelong Chelsea fan Matisse. Right, back to winning ways, guys. It feels I'm sort of glad we've done a show now so we don't have to deal too much with the results before the Everton game. But it was vitally important, Jace, that we did get back to winning ways. Sort of performance aside, the result was the most important thing.
The most important thing, Liv, on the back of 4 games without win at the Arsenal game, that was a toughie. I felt another day we come away with all 3 points. Then you go away to Leeds. Well, it was a disaster. You can't dress that up any other way.
No.
It was terrible. Then you move forward to Bournemouth. You're thinking something's got to improve. No. Didn't really. Now you come away thinking, all right, got a point. Then you go away to Atalanta. And actually, we managed to get a nose in front. I thought second half our game management was pretty terrible. So then you move forward to Everton, and they're on good form.
Yeah.
They go above us if they win. We weren't great. The goals came against the run of play. I thought the second half we managed it really well. I was really pleased the way we took the sting out of the game. They had chances, Everton, but over the 90 minutes, take the 3 points, move on, and of course we've got a massive game tomorrow night against Cardiff.
Yeah, huge win. I've thought about the repercussions of us not winning this game, considering that we know what we've got next weekend, which is Newcastle away in December, away at St James's Park. I don't know who does the fixtures, honestly.
Why is it always that fixture, right? It's always that fixture. And I feel like over Christmas, Chelsea always seemed, we know this, we always seem to fall off a cliff over Christmas.
Yeah.
And it always begins on that game. We never have a home, nice, easy fixture, the one before Christmas, do we?
No.
It was
Everton away last
week.
year.
I feel like it was Everton the year before as well.
Yeah.
And now it's Newcastle away.
So this was huge. To get the confidence back into the players as well, because I feel like they understand the pressure the manager's probably on as well. And there was some nice performances in there, some players with Cole Palmer's back, When Cole Palmer's back, everybody's happy. So it was very important win.
Yeah, you mentioned the timing of the goals. I think that was very important because actually Everton was sort of creeping into the game initially, and I think that first goal, the timing of Palmer's goal, that's what killed him, didn't it?
It did a bit, and look, there's never a bad time to score the first goal in a game, but especially when we hadn't quite got into our stride.
Yeah.
There was a couple of little mini moments, but largely I felt Everton settled into the game much better than we did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as if they were carving us open and creating loads of chances, but they were definitely controlling the tempo of the game, and to score the goal, and of course Cole Palmer, it broke their hearts. Because they got there thinking, we ain't done bad, we're 1-0 down. It wasn't brilliant, but much needed. But I'm so delighted for Cole to come back and score.
Yeah. I think Drewsbury Hall going off was big for them as
Yeah, it
well.
was massive.
Everton, he's been brilliant for them recently. He's probably the player I was worried about the most going into this game, just purely because of how he knits everything together. Obviously, the goals that he's been adding to the team, third man runs. When he comes off, Alcaraz comes on, who actually then ends up giving us a chance with a poor pass, and Garnacho should score as well. Just kind of took the rhythm out of their game, because first 10-15 minutes, they had a lot of the ball.
Yeah.
And I was a bit worried about us, but then, we slowly came into it, and I think our performance just picked up more and more after that.
Second half was good.
Yeah, we'll get on to Cole Palmer in just a second, because it's so happy to have Cole Palmer back. A Cole Palmer that seems to still be dealing with an issue. Like he did say in his post-match interview that, he's still dealing with it, but day by day it is getting better. So I'm not sure we'll see him start every game, will we? But we'll get on to him in a second, because we spoke on this show last time about Enzo Maresca knowing his first choice centre-back pairing. that is evident even more day by day, game by game, that Wesley Fofana and Trevor Chalobah are quite clearly his favourite centre-back partnership. 5 clean sheets in the last 6 games they've started together.
Yep.
We know Fofana's injury record means he can't start every game, but those two are forming quite a nice partnership. And something we haven't seen from this Chelsea side under Maresca is a centre-back partnership starting a lot of games together.
Yeah, and building partnerships and familiarity as well, not just with the 2 centre-halves, but the goalkeeper and your fullbacks. The fullbacks can change. More often than not, Cucurella plays there, but Hato has gone out there as well. But the partnership there, and also the understanding with the midfield, you get partnerships all over the pitch, and it's almost impossible if you are changing it on a game-by-game basis. The partnership at the back with Trevor and Wes, that feels solid. It's got their dovetail one another. There's a lot of pace at the back there. Wesley can come at the ball technically. He can travel with the ball. His passing selection is good. But of course, you've got the Levi Colwill situation, which has thrown that. Also, on the back, and I'm going to, apologies for saying this again, but he's on the back of what is unprecedented Club World Cup and no pre-season.
Yeah.
And he's trying to manage Fofana. And I think at times that gets in the way, because the most important thing is making sure they're fit come April, come March, come when we get into May. They're the months where I feel we need as much of his squad available. And I think that's why we've seen so much rotation.
Yeah, it's hard as well, because like we say, usually you probably wouldn't rotate your centre-back partnership, right? If you've got 2 players that you stick with that are good, the issue is that not all centre-backs are as injury-prone as Wesley Fofana.
Yeah.
He's missed so much football since he came to this football club, and like we say every season, the games he does play is absolutely brilliant, but we don't see it enough. So again, we've sat here on this show and said that Enzo Maresca deserves credit for the way he's handled, say, Reece James's minutes. But he also deserves credit for what he's doing with Wesley Fofana, because it feels like at the moment we're getting a really good, fit Wesley Fofana consistently when he plays.
Yeah, it's a miracle. You look at how far he's come, because he's had consecutive Premier League 90 minutes now. I think against Arsenal, 89 minutes roughly. Wolves 90 minutes, Bournemouth 90 minutes, and now 90 minutes here. And the level that he brings this defence up to, the composure, the anticipation, the pace, it just brings everybody up many levels. And how much better this must be for Sanchez in goal. Yeah. You talk about mix and matching, centre-back pairings, set-piece defending, coming for crosses, claiming, playing the ball out, making decisions with your centre-backs in terms of build-up play. So he must be relieved to see that there's a bit of a partnership being struck, because he's been very good this season, despite all of the kind of change. But really happy for Trevor as well, because I think Trevor at the start of the season, he was having a mixture of different partnerships. He was starting to fall a little bit away with some individual errors as well. And he's already gone through the kind of loan out to Palace, then the recall, back and forth. Will he be sold? Will he stay? And it was starting to get a bit murky as to whether or not he was going to be good enough as well with the mistakes he was making. But now he's got someone next to him that he can rely upon, and it's a really good partnership. He's really playing very well at the moment as well, so very happy to see that for him.
Yeah, I actually think Trevor is Chelsea's most important centre-back. There was a reason that he got rested in the second half against Atalanta, because Enzo Maresca has said, he's played so much and he's going to continue to play. So obviously those 2 are right now, with I think Josh now, Achiampong is probably the third choice to come in and replace one of them.
You'd like to think so.
You never know, I suppose. You never know. But when Levi Colwill comes back, what happens? Well,
that's a big if and when, because, I feel for him, because it was a massive year, not just as his domestic career with Chelsea, but also international with the World Cup. I don't know when he's going to be back. It's difficult to look beyond that at the moment, but I want to go back to Trev. Big ups to him, because he has been so consistent, and he has had his problems, and there is some of that down to him, some of it not, because he has been thrown with so many different people. I think he's been good, been really good, and being a Chelsea boy as well, it means a lot that you've got someone at the heart of that defence that come through the academy. It's a big plus for him. I thought he was good at the weekend again.
Yeah, another clean sheet as well, which is always nice. I think Chelsea's defensive record, I think it's gone under the radar a little bit. I think, when you look at Sanchez, Chalobah and Fofana, when you think of the best defences in the league, Chelsea are right up there with Arsenal. And you think of Arsenal's defence, for obviously a long period they have had Gabriel, Saliba and Raya. That 3 obviously at the moment is a little bit skewed. Yeah. But I think it's a little bit underrated, Chelsea's defence this season.
Yeah, the clean sheets is a big thing. The problem we've got is when we do concede, we can concede the second as well.
And the third.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's that element. Yeah. Arsenal don't do that, rarely.
Yeah.
So they concede, I don't think it's called conceding more than 2 goals all season. They are the best defence in the country, there's no question about that. That's what we've got. Concede one, let's not concede another, but we are at times a bit guilty of that.
When we're good, we're good. When we're bad, we're bad.
Yeah, that can happen.
There's no in the middle,
No,
is there?
no.
But is that just what comes with having a young team and a team that makes a lot of changes? Because Enzo Maresca is going to do that whether Chelsea win or Chelsea lose or Chelsea draw. Whatever happens, if Chelsea win, there's no guarantee that he sticks with that same team.
No.
He doesn't work like that. He thinks making changes regardless of whether you win or lose. So is that possibly the reason for it?
I think we're this season's set up to have to do that. I think there's players like Lavia, Fofana, that we have to manage that are injured.
He's nursing them, isn't he?
And he has to nurse them, and he has to, and he's done brilliantly in doing that with James as well. So there's guaranteed rotation with certain positions. Badiashile always gets these 45-minute stints to kind of build his fitness up as well. And then there's young players that are inconsistent, and they also have to be rotated to keep themselves on, keep them on their toes and keep them motivated and keep them pushing and understanding the level. And then the Club World Cup and the lack of pre-season and the Champions League. So he has to rotate, and I think he's rotated more than any other manager in the Premier League. Yeah. It's just how he chooses to do so. Can he find partnerships that he can stick to within that rotation? Can he make sure that Josh now gets ahead of tossing in the queue to replace Fofana so you can keep that pace in the back line, to keep the high line, to keep the counter press? Just certain things that you can keep similar to make the rotation as least effective as least problematic as possible. But we're guaranteed to rotate until the end of the season.
Yeah, and one player who actually hasn't been rotated in the last 3 games is Reece James. I cannot remember the last time, Jace, he played 3 90 minutes in a row. But not even 3 90 minutes, he just looks so fit and so ready. And, when was the last time? Like, that's years and years and years ago, probably, that he played 3 90s in a row.
And the workload's been put on him even more so in that middle of the park because of Caicedo getting suspended. So that if you want that dominant physicality, defensive human right in the front of their back four, it ain't Caicedo, it's going to be Reece, right? And Reece now, I think I might have said this last week, the week before, he trusts his body now.
Yeah.
There's a part of Reece now where he's gone through that. The mindset now is, I trust my body, and it's second nature now to just be the natural Reece that we've got. Fingers crossed it stays that way, because he is absolutely crucial to how we perform, how we play, and how we're going to go through these up and coming weeks. Because who knows, we might find ourselves in a Champions League playoff, which is another 2 games we could do without. There's another couple of games that Enzo might have to think about as well. But I'm so pleased for Reece, because there was a time where I was concerned really about what the future looked like for him at Chelsea, because you can't keep holding players that are injured. So pleased for him.
The quality that he shows, I think it's even still going under the radar. I'm watching this guy in midfield. He's picking it up in the left part of midfield, the right part of midfield. He's using both feet to switch play, to pass. The cross, I think against, was it Atalanta in midweek?
Beautiful.
It's a brilliant cross for João Pedro. His corners, set pieces, free kicks, he nearly scored there.
It's a
wonderful free kick. Yeah. And then you get the defensive side, and it's the duels, and it's the headers, and the tackles, the interceptions. This is one of the most complete footballers on the planet, genuinely, because I think he's been kind of limited almost to right back or right side centre back because of the injuries, or because of and obviously only being able to play a handful of games as well, coming back from injury. I think people have forgotten. This guy used to play striker when he was younger. If you put him anywhere in the pitch, he's shielding the ball. He's creating avenues and passing options for others. He's ridiculous. There's nothing that he can't actually do when you actually watch him. It's one of the most complete players out there.
Yeah. There's no weakness to his game.
No.
Not at all.
No, and when he's on, and we saw the Arsenal game, when he is that lead, and he is becoming a leader now, because Reece is actually he's a quiet lad. He's not a shouter and a screamer. He's not a John Terry. But he now wears the armband. I saw at the weekend something happen where he's been speaking to the ref, might be the game before. And I like the fact that Reece is going up there now and being that presence, that focal point to we're not happy with this decision. And that he's now a proper leader.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to have a fully fit Reece James.
Indeed.
Now, if I asked you a question on Malo Gusto, are you going to promise to actually answer it?
Go on.
Rather than tell me you've had a really bad week or something. Because, obviously, Malo Gusto had a brilliant game, and we will get into Enzo Maresca's comments a little bit later on. Yeah. But the fact that Enzo Maresca has turned him into a player that can come into midfield, and I never thought I would see the day, to be honest, Jace, where Malo Gusto was having the game like he did against against Everton, the beautiful pass for Cole Palmer, and arriving late into the box and scoring a goal. Like, what's happened?
He did have a shot about a minute and a half before that, about 30 yards. I'm doing the saying, "Come on, you've scored one," and then a minute and a half later, he gets to the end of it. Yeah, he gets that coming inside and that inverted fullback. That's he's getting to grips with that. I do prefer him for a right back coming into the area. He did play against Liverpool.
And he was unbelievable, wasn't he?
Excellent. But the problem is it's consistency, Liv. And the best players are always the most consistent players. And that's something, he's still young, that's something that he's going to have to continue with. He trusts Gusto, clearly. Enzo, he trusts him in there. And he was good. He was one of those players you think, wow, that pass, that's not someone we see for him. Arriving in the box. Frank Lampard-esque, getting in there, tapping it in. So look, really right for him as well.
Yes.
It's a stressful situation because against Atalanta, he comes on in the 10, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? We need to score a goal.
That wasn't.
I saw him pressing behind João Pedro, and I thought, I don't like this.
The Atalanta game was a weird one because some of the decisions that were made in that game, I was a bit confused about. The whole Josh,
especially when you're
staying at right back, and then Gusto coming on in an attacking position. I was like,
Caicedo was behind him, almost playing centre back. So Caicedo's obviously back for Cardiff, but it is a bit back and forth with the manager because he does these wacky things where you've seen Pep invert a fullback and Maresca says, "Don't worry, I can invert both of them." Plus, I'm playing the other fullback in there who's now a centre midfielder in Reece. So it's a lot to take in, I think, for Chelsea fans because it is tactically maybe more than we're used to in terms of back in 4-3-3 days, or it's just a lot simpler and it's a lot more palatable. But that worked brilliantly that game. Gusto, he is getting a goal and assist. I'm not going to sit here and say I want to see it every week, but maybe it is horses for courses, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But
I think it's important we mention it though, because
absolutely,
he has had tricky moments. Gusto, his role has changed because he really is. He's a right back in the true sense of the word, right? He likes to go on overlaps. He likes to get on the outside. He likes to support the winger. No, not anymore. So he's had to adjust. It's a lot of adjusting.
It is a lot of adjusting. And like you say, Enzo, sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, right? Do you think sometimes he does, like the Atalanta game, I think maybe the subs in the second half is a good example, of just overcomplicating it or overthinking it a little bit, rather than just going, right, I mean, for the Atalanta game, Josh is a centre-back. You've got a centre-back on the pitch, so why don't you just take Fofana off, put Josh at centre-back and play Malo Gusto at right-back? Or move Reece James to right. There is options, but it does just feel like
going back to this rotation, Liv, I don't know how much that is playing a part in these decisions. On field, you can't legislate for a player getting a boot in the eye, right? And you've got to think on your feet. And Maresca has shown, actually, there are certain games where we went down to 10 men, Man United and Brighton, didn't quite get it right, OK? Arsenal, he did. Arsenal, he got that right. Didn't change a great deal about it, right? He kept things simple. It does feel as though that I wonder whether he's looking at a graph and he's looking at minutes. Who hasn't played? Who can I put in there? That's how it feels. I don't know that, but it does feel as though he's getting information, and that information he's got is basically influences decisions tactically and the personnel that comes on the pitch.
Is he looking at Caicedo's mileage and thinking, right, I need to put you deeper because you don't want to do too much running, Gusto, you can do it. It
does feel like it's a little bit overcomplicated at times.
It does, absolutely. Yeah, for that game in particular, I thought, honestly, I couldn't work out what was going on.
I couldn't work out what was going on.
To see Gusto, Reece James and Cucurella in a midfield three, whilst the midfielder is on the pitch but behind them, it was a lot to take.
Yeah, it was all a little bit strange. Cole Palmer. Let me remind you. Everyone saw his Instagram post after the game. I think the caption, maybe, Jace, is a little bit telling because it is almost like people have forgotten how good Cole Palmer is. I mean, for us, we always knew, we've never forgotten. But it does feel like people out there have maybe forgotten about the levels that Cole Palmer...
I mean, if you're not a Chelsea fan, maybe he has gone off your radar because he's hardly played this season. And he had a brilliant Club World Cup, come back, he's had the injuries, he hasn't played a lot of games at all. But Cole Palmer is one of the very best when he's on form. He is one of the very, very best. And what we've seen in that time, Liv, we have seen under Tuchel with England, we've seen the conversation around Jude Bellingham, we've seen the conversation about Rodgers. Foden is doing it now on a weekly basis, scored again at the weekend. He's now looking back to his very best. So the competition for places in and around that number 10 area where Palmer wants to play is fierce. And he's out of sight, out of mind. But, comes back at the weekend, beautiful finish. And that lovely balance he's got such a he's such a lovely player to watch because he actually doesn't look naturally a footballer, but the way he shuffles and uses his body and the disguise he has where he's going to pass, cross, and he does something with it, and he's gone. And he's gone, and he gets another yard of space for it. He's a wonderful, wonderful footballer.
Yeah. Effortless, isn't he?
Yeah.
So much elegance in the way he plays. There's the little things that almost we take for granted now, where he is just sizing a player up and he'll nutmeg him, or he'll just literally just flick it round the corner and run off. And like, he's not like he's got blistering pace, or he's electric in terms of speed, but he's just able to find that separation, find that yard all the time. The IQ that he plays with is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's great to have him back, honestly, because he is our best player, and especially in that attack. And the fact that Maresca hasn't had him this whole time, it's quite difficult. Yeah, you can imagine.
I mean, it is difficult considering, like, it's not even just losing Cole Palmer, right? You've lost Cole Palmer for 11 of the 16 games. You've lost Moises Caicedo for 5 of the 16 games, and you've lost Levi Colwill for all of those 16 games. Levi Colwill was our best centre-back by a mile. Cole Palmer's our best player by a mile. And Moises Caicedo is the most important player by a mile. So it's like you're having to deal with losing those 3 for any team. For even Arsenal, that's like Arsenal losing Gabriel, Saka and Rice all at the same time. And it's obviously going to have effect. So I think fair play to Enzo Maresca. The finish, though, Jace. I mean, did he give pick for the eyes? He must have given pick for the eyes. But when he gets into that position, Marc Cucurella is about 20 yards behind him, celebrating before he's even put the ball in the back of the net.
He's ice cold in those situations.
I like it.
He scored a goal against Bournemouth last season. It was Jackson, actually, that put him through a lovely weighted pass, runs off the right-hand side at Stamford Bridge, and he just puts the keeper down. You know that one where he goes...
Oh, yeah,
and he puts the keeper down.
A little feint.
And he slots it in. He knows what he's doing before... He knows what he's doing. He's got these pictures in his eye, and that one there, he gets in there, and he's probably give pick for the eyes. He's gone whipped it near post. He's a brilliant finisher in those areas. That chance he had against Bournemouth last weekend, where he cuts across the post. He's a little bit too far on that near post.
Yeah.
I think maybe if he had, maybe had a few more minutes, might have waited a second if it had come a bit closer and whip it to the far post. But it's a lovely finish, and we need him. We've got massive games coming up, not just domestically, but European games, huge games. We need a fit Cole Palmer.
Yeah, you look at Napoli away, that's a must-win. Paphos, of course, a must-win if you want to get top 8, if you want to avoid those...
Still might not make it, even to win those both.
Yeah, and that's to avoid the playoff games. You don't want to play 2 more games, so... Yeah, he needs to be fit now for the rest of the season. Yeah,
and obviously we have the luxury now of having Cardiff in the League Cup, so we're not going to play him there. I doubt he'll even come on. But that Newcastle away, like we've spoken about, I think that, we need a fully fit Cole Palmer for that. Yeah. Obviously, the England squad is, what Cole Palmer is hoping to achieve next summer. I mean, I personally think if he's fit and he's playing, even if he's not in great form, he's still going to go to the World Cup. But do we really care if he starts at the World Cup? I'm not really bothered, to be honest.
Well, as an England fan, you want your best players, and that's Tuchel's job now, is to find out the best formula. Gareth Southgate kept putting Foden on the left, and it didn't quite work. Palmer eventually forced him way into the reckoning. He come off the bench, didn't he, and scored in the
Netherlands.
Yeah, scored in the final.
Scored in the final,
Scored in the final. So, but what he needs to do now is I would forget about the World Cup right now.
I think he probably is, though, to be fair.
And it's hard because, I mentioned Levi Colwill there, and I felt for any player that's picked up an injury where your World Cup dream is probably dead. Cole Palmer now has got to get back to doing what he does best, ball at his feet, creating chances, scoring goals. If he does that between now and March, next England squad, 100% he's in that squad.
I mean,
100%.
I don't think there's any... Obviously, unless he is injured, like Jay says, Matisse, if he's injured, then obviously Thomas Tuchel probably won't take him. But, I mean, when you look at the most goals and assists by English players in the last 3 Premier League seasons, obviously Harry Kane is by far and away, but obviously not playing in the Premier League. Yeah. Ollie Watkins, in 90 games, has got 59 goals and assists. Cole Palmer, in 76 games, has 58 goals. It's just the levels and the numbers. Yeah. And this is what Cole Palmer means by let me remind you. This is what Chelsea fans mean by let us remind you, because that is ridiculous from a player that plays in the 10 and on the right-hand side. By the way, on that right-hand side, that's where he is. He likes to occupy that space, and that is, I think, where we get the best Cole Palmer.
Yeah, and that's Cole Palmer that hasn't played with a clinical striker at Chelsea as of yet.
He's played with about 8 different strikers.
No partner. No real partner.
The amount of strikers, that have missed chances up front when Cole Palmer has put it on a plate. So those statistics could even be higher. So, he's a ridiculous footballer, and for me, he absolutely goes as long as he's fit, like you said. And I don't think he needs to be worried whatsoever.
No.
I think Tuchel will know the quality that he's looking at when he sees him. And you want someone like that even on the bench. Even if he doesn't start, I'm not too fussed because, like you said, the impact that he made in the semi-final and in the final coming on, it was there for everyone to see. So as long as he's in that squad, he can make an impact, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But us as Chelsea fans, we obviously want to see. We do want to see Cole Palmer start in the 10.
Yeah.
But, I mean, England are blessed with a lot of great options in that position, and we know the impact that Cole Palmer can have off the bench anyway, especially for England. Right, this episode is brought to you by talkSPORT Bet, and this time they've got an incredible Christmas offer for new customers who are Chelsea fans. talkSPORT Bet are giving away 2 VIP tickets to Chelsea against Aston Villa on the 27th of December. We're talking padded seats, a pitch-side visit, and premium meal and drinks as well. All you have to do to enter is go to talksportbet.com/Chelsea VIP and bet £10. You'll get £40 in free bets, and you'll be entered into the draw. The very best of luck. So after the Everton game, Enzo Maresca, I sort of referenced it earlier, got asked a question about Malo Gusto in his post-match press conference. And it was a rather strange reply, but I will read you what he said. He said, "Since I joined the club, the last 48 hours have been the worst 48 hours since I joined the club because many people didn't support us. Many people didn't support me and the team." He was asked to clarify whether it had been an internal lack of support, and he just said, in general, I love the fans and we are very happy with the fans. Interesting comments, Jace. Yeah. After a game in which Chelsea have won, it just felt like watching that presser and hearing that news was that he was waiting for the time to come out and say that. It felt like he really wanted to get this point out and get this off his chest, given that he was asked a question about Malo Gusto and came out with it's the worst 48 hours I've had at the club. What did you make of what he had to say?
I think what this shows is how much pressure managers are under. He would have felt the defeats away at Leeds, away at Bournemouth, the draw, and the defeat away at Atalanta. And this is building up. This is not something that's just happened in 48 hours. I don't know, but my own personal take on this has been the last 3 games. And it's brought it to a bit of a head in the last 48 hours, whatever he is talking about there. And I think what it shows, Liv, is how important that win was at the weekend.
Do you think he was waiting for a win to come out and say it?
Difficult to know without knowing all the facts, but it does feel that this is being built up. And who knows what has been said, because let's be honest, right? The performance against Leeds wasn't good enough. No. Let's call it for what it is. Performance against Bournemouth wasn't good enough. No. Performance against Atalanta wasn't good enough. Yeah. So let's call it out for what it absolutely is. And he would have known that. And he would have felt this. And Everton at home, you can't have Everton, David Moyes, above Chelsea in the league. No. Because, they haven't spent huge money. He's a good manager, David Moyes, and they're a football club, clearly very stable at the moment. Yeah. Can't have Everton above us in the league. No. And I felt this as a fan, going to work there for Chelsea, imagine feeling what it's like for the manager, feeling this pressure of, oh my God, we could slip out that race now for the top 4. That's where we are. We're in a top 4 race. Really good against Arsenal. Yeah. Really, really good in the games before that. Barcelona. Yeah. Since then, it's tailed off. Yeah. And I think we're looking at that narrowed down to 40 hours, whatever's gone on at the club, and I don't know.
Who do you think that comment was aimed at? Because he came out and said it wasn't the fans, he's loved the fans. Who do you think specifically it was aimed at? Who do you think hasn't supported him and the club in this sort of run of games? I
think Chelsea are very quick to brief and to put out articles or reports or tell reporters to put out certain things when the going is when it's going well. The pats on the back for the recruitment, the winning of the Club World Cup, the strategy, the long-term vision. Maresca is going to want that same kind of reporting, that same kind of media backing and briefing when things are not going right. Because at the end of the day, everybody's meant to all be in this together in regards to the strategy, the long-term vision, the recruitment and the overall project. And he probably maybe feels that over the last couple of weeks, there's been a little bit of a crank up in pressure and Chelsea have not come out through their various channels and said, we're backing this guy, he's not going anywhere, no pressure on him. That's probably what he wants because he's getting the questions in the press conference, he's seeing the pressures ramping up. And like you said, he can afford maybe to drop out of a title race because that was the overall objective from the hierarchy to finish in the top 4 again this season and to maybe go and do something in the Cups. Maresca and Chelsea cannot afford to finish outside the top 4 and not get Champions League football for the back-to-back seasons, especially where you look at the front of shirt sponsorship situation and where that's going and the difficulty in securing that. Chelsea need money and revenue. So he will feel that pressure. I think it's been a long 2 weeks for him. I do think he's bottled it up over the last couple of games as well, or the last couple of days. And it, like you said, it's just been incrementally building and building. But it's actually incredible when you think about it, to go from Arsenal, a good point with the circumstances, the context, and the talk of a title race to 2 weeks later, people talk about his job being at risk. That's a very short period of time for one individual to go from the top to almost feeling like the bottom. So I get why he might be a bit emotional, because I think it is a bit erratic in football, and the points gap is so slim between the teams that it's like, hold on a second, you guys were just telling me I was in a title race and now suddenly you're talking about sacking me. So I think there's a lot going on there, yeah.
Do you think JC's underperforming?
I think that the team, the last 3 games have.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think, look, we, on this show, I think we're pretty balanced.
Yeah.
When we play well, we call it, and we say it, we praise players. When we don't, I think it's only right that we give the Chelsea fans an honest reaction about who we are. And those games against Barcelona, I thought Barcelona, we were excellent. Against Arsenal, I come away disappointed with a point, even though we're down 10 men. That performance against Leeds, that and Bournemouth back-to-back, not acceptable. And Maresca, he's in the firing line. He's been in football all his life. He knows how this game works.
Especially at Chelsea.
Look, results are all important, right? Arsenal got lucky at the weekend. Will they care? No, because they got the result. They got that. That's the most important thing. Everton at the weekend, the most important thing was the result. We've got Cardiff tomorrow night. We can go to Newcastle and get something, right? Tough game, I know that. We've got to show who we really are. We can go there and we can go and get something out of that game. Got to take care of business tomorrow night. You know, and then we got Villa. Things can change, as we've seen, so quickly in football. They can go from being potential title challenge, which we weren't, but in the conversation, to looks like we're going to fall out the top 4 or 5. That's happened in the space of 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
That's how quick things can change.
And is that why people maybe sort of criticise Maresca?
Yeah, I think it's just the pressure in terms of the timeline of when he arrived and the timeline of when this all started at Chelsea. And I think the longer we get into this project, the higher the expectations are going to get, and rightly so. And he's going to have to sync up with that, regardless of whether it is his first campaign in 4 competitions, regardless of if he is managing injury-prone players and players that are, just coming back, massive additions like Cole Palmer, Caicedo being suspended, ill discipline in the red card kind of run that we was on. All of these different factors that he's having to manage, that makes his job a lot more complex than it maybe should be. If you're looking at a traditional Chelsea team, you're thinking, that's a title-winning team that we've just spent money on. There's experience in that team, there's leaders in that team, there's legends in that team, and we need to win the league, and that's it. If you don't get it done, off you go. But there is a lot more going on at Chelsea in regards to young players, developing, managing that, the maturity, the ill discipline like we spoke. So there's just so much more to manage that it does make the job more complex, because the pressure is still the same, but the circumstances and the context changes. So it's a difficult one.
Yes, and Enzo Maresca has spoken to the media again today ahead of our League Cup quarter-final against Cardiff. Ben Jacobs joins us now to react to this. So, Ben, what has Enzo Maresca been saying today then?
Well, Enzo Maresca was quite guarded. He was given the opportunity to clarify his comments that he didn't feel supported and it was his worst 48 hours at the football club. He was trying to get the media to speak about Cardiff, but naturally he was asked questions in several different ways. He didn't want to add too much to his comments, but there was no backtrack either. He had a chance to say that this wasn't an internal issue, and he didn't, and that was quite telling. He stressed that he's happy at Chelsea. He also said that there are more positives than negatives this season, but there is still an internal issue. Maresca clearly doesn't want to turn it into a media circus, but he used the Everton game after a victory and a question about Malo Gusto to send a message. And I got the impression, listening to him, that he didn't want to attack a specific owner or director, but he also didn't want to backtrack and smooth things over. So the overriding impression I got from Maresca's press conference ahead of Cardiff is that he stands by his comments.
Were you surprised that Maresca came out so publicly and said it was the worst 48 hours since he's been at the club?
I wasn't surprised that Enzo Maresca was forthright, because we've seen that throughout the season. For example, after Levi Colwill had his ACL injury, Enzo Maresca said he wanted another centre-back, and that felt like another message to the club. And the recruitment team didn't want to bring in another defender, and Enzo Maresca disagreed with that. But I think Chelsea insiders are clear that this is a model that's collaborative. There's supposed to be freedom to challenge. And if there wasn't a kind of professional debate or conflict, then you wouldn't have a healthy model. So manager, sporting directors and owners aren't always supposed to agree. But I think there's a line. And obviously at Chelsea, the expectation, like at Tottenham as well, under Daniel Levy in particular, is managers are not supposed to air their dirty laundry via the media, and to an extent that's what Enzo Maresca has done. So his comments caught us by surprise, because it was a win, it was a question about Malo Gusto, and Maresca had something to say, but that's within his character to defend his position and sometimes seemingly speak to the club hierarchy directly via the media. So the Chelsea perspective is that this was just an emotional answer after an emotional win. But my understanding is that some of Maresca's frustrations, even though we're not talking about an untenable situation at this point, but some of his bugbears internally and some of the issues that he has had have actually been brewing for quite some time.
What happens next then, do you think, Ben? Is this sort of the end of it, or can we expect this to sort of rumble on?
I think Enzo Maresca feels that a line has been drawn under it, and that seems to be the case with Chelsea as well, at least publicly anyway. So Maresca didn't want to elaborate too much on what he said, because he doesn't want this to become an issue that overshadows games. He doesn't want it to be a circus whereby everyone's asking him if he's happy at Chelsea. And I think from Chelsea's point of view, they still back Enzo Maresca. So there are two sort of perspectives here. The Chelsea one is that even during a poor festive period last season, they supported and backed Maresca. And then when he joined, they gave him a 5-year contract. And when he was coming under criticism a few weeks or months ago for over-rotating, again, Chelsea sources firmly backed Enzo Maresca when there was speculation that his job might be under threat in the early part of the season. Again, Enzo Maresca got the support of the Chelsea hierarchy. And when Chelsea were being billed, when they were in form in the build-up to the last festive period, and again in the early part of this season as title contenders, Chelsea sources were very keen to kind of ground everybody and take the pressure off Enzo Maresca. So I would imagine the Chelsea hierarchy think that they've categorically and unwaveringly backed Enzo Maresca, and that will continue even after these comments. But then there's the Maresca perspective, and that is still that maybe after losses, he's not getting as much support from within the club as he would like. There's the fact that Maresca feels, according to my information, that when there are mitigating circumstances for Chelsea's dips in form, they're not being factored in. For example, Levi Colwill's ACL, Cole Palmer's groin injury, Moises Caicedo being missing from a number of games. And then I think at the heart of this is also whether Maresca feels that some of the criticism he's getting is actually born out of a club strategy that, yes, he buys into, but in executing it, all the pressure is maybe on his shoulders. And that is just football. And it might be how Maresca feels, and the Chelsea hierarchy may think differently. But when Maresca rotates, I don't get the impression it's born out of necessity. I think the Chelsea strategy is to have a healthy rotation, to allow these young players to gain experience, and also to raise the value of every player at the football club, whether they succeed or fail. And if things are to develop now going forwards and more friction to be created, it will likely be because Enzo Maresca starts to lose faith in the Chelsea model in itself. And that's not going to change because the Chelsea owners and directors believe that it's bearing fruit. So I think scenario one is that Maresca's said his piece, but actually gets results and realises that this young Chelsea model is evolving in a very positive way, and then it could all go away. Or scenario number 2 is like with Mauricio Pochettino, the manager starts to deviate a bit from the model, and then as we know at Chelsea Football Club, there's only one winner. So we're not at a point where Maresca has said he's unhappy. We're not at a point where the owners are so unhappy with his public comments they're going to do anything about it. And I don't think that they're entirely not on the same page, which might suggest that it will all just fizzle out. And if results go Maresca and Chelsea's way, they move forwards together. But at the heart of all of this is it's a relatively new Chelsea model. There'll always be teething problems. And the owners and directors are so categorical in their belief that it will work. And we're now starting to see that to be the case as well. So everyone that's criticised Chelsea from the outside is to an extent eating humble pie as we see young stars like Esteval succeed, Chelsea in the Champions League, Chelsea with 2 bits of silverware from last season. And that all suggests that the owners rightly can view this Chelsea project now as being on the right path. But managers are not always there for the long term. Managers have to shoulder the burden of the media glare. And whilst the project thinks long term and strategically, managers have to think about today, tomorrow. So there's always going to be a bit of a mismatch there. And that's why I think that Enzo Maresca wanted to be forthright and give his opinion. And now we wait and see whether this is a developing friction over time, or if it's just a case of Maresca sticking to his position and being as firm as he possibly can, whilst trying to ultimately do what the owners want him to do, which is win more silverware. And if he does that, then this will go away very quickly.
Okay, so as we know, Chelsea's fixtures over Christmas, it just seems to be, no matter who we play, no matter when the games are, something always happens over Christmas and we can't seem to put a run of wins together. I mean, this time last year was the prime example of that, Jace. Why are you laughing? It's not funny,
I remember
Jace.
it well, Liv.
We literally, definition of falling off a cliff last year.
Yeah, well, it started with the Everton game, didn't it?
But we drew...
Yeah, we
drew
did.
that.
Yeah.
That's not a bad result.
No, but you know what, though? It's not a bad point, but it turns into a bad point when you see what happens to the next 3 games.
We lost to Fulham.
You know, and that was where the real... So it was the beginning. We could have gone top of the table on that day, beaten.
Yeah.
But you're right. Everton away, there's never a bad point. It isn't. Because that's... Goodison was always a tough place to go. However, that turned into a bad point because what happened against Fulham, and then who else did we have?
I can't remember who we lost
I can't
to.
remember, but we had a terrible end to 2024.
Yeah.
Terrible end.
Yeah.
Look, the games come thick and fast. We've got ourselves a great tie tomorrow night. It's a game we should win. We should be in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
Let's park that game for the most important game is coming up with Newcastle away, and then we've got Villa. 2 tough games. Newcastle away, one of the toughest grounds to go to, but they are not the Newcastle of last year or the year before that. We're a side that can go there and get something. I genuinely, honestly feel that. Not saying we will, but I genuinely feel we can. Villa, wow. I mean, you're talking about the most informed side in Europe right now. Yeah. Forget England. They are absolutely flying. That is going to be a tough game. And we've got Bournemouth at home. Now, come on, right? We should take something at least out of the 2 home games. We should beat Bournemouth. Do you know what? I know you looked after me the other week when I said I'll take 4 points. I would happily right here now take 5 points out of those games. Now, it's not a great haul out of 9. I get it. But what I want to do is say we're unbeaten. I want to go into the new year against Manchester City unbeaten between now and then. That carries a lot of clout. Villa at home is going to be tough. But we are more than capable of beating Villa at home. So we could be looking at 7 points here.
We could also be looking at 0.
I don't,
Sorry to be negative. I don't think we'll get 0.
The next game up, Newcastle, I believe we can go and get something there. I genuinely feel we are.
A point away at Newcastle. Would you take a point away at Newcastle now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
Arsenal have gone there and won.
Yeah.
Liverpool have gone there and won. You know, teams can go there and win.
Yeah, but like last minute winners, it's not ever comfortable. And for whatever reason, I just feel like Newcastle at St James's Park, I just feel like they up their game against us. And I don't know what it is, but I watched their performance in the time where Derby, the Weir Tyne Derby, it sounds weird saying Weir Tyne Derby, but that game against Newcastle, against Sunderland, And I thought they were awful.
Yeah, they were.
But I don't expect them to be anywhere near that bad against us.
No, they won't. That's the problem. They were awful against Sunderland. They didn't have any sort of creativity, any sort of goal threat, and that is exactly how they won't play against us. You know,
They'll play the complete opposite.
And will be straight. And this is the thing: Cole Palmer going into that game, just come back from injury. It's the most physical place to go sometimes, Newcastle, because it is Joe Linton, it is Tonali, it is Bruno Guimaraes and Dan Burn, and that's what I'm also worried about as well. Is that physicality we're going to have to match. We matched it against Arsenal. That's the level of intensity we're going to have to play at Newcastle. So maybe the team rotation is going to have to reflect that against Cardiff. But I think I would have taken maybe 5. I don't think I ever would have taken actually 5 points from those 3 games, because I think if we'd done well before this, we'd be maybe in a bit of a race, and then we would need these points. And now that we haven't had a good run of form, we almost need the points even more, because we need to be in the top 4. Man City away, I feel like that game is always at the same time every year.
Every year, yeah.
It's always in January.
Always the first game in January.
And that's going to be really difficult.
And we always lose it.
Yeah, you look at Cherky, Foden, Haaland, the way that they're linking up, syncing up.
Of all the games, that's the toughest game. A lot.
City away is always.
That's a really tough game, and that's why I'm almost looking at the 3, thinking I need 7. But yeah, let's see what we get out of it. It's really difficult. I
think it bodes well that Chelsea are better in the better games. I think we've seen this season that against Liverpool, and Spurs, but Arsenal.
Well, consider the big games in your eyes.
The bigger games on paper, Chelsea always seem to get up for, and it's the other games that Chelsea maybe don't seem to get up for as much. So actually, looking at those fixtures, maybe these are the 4 that Chelsea do get up for, because that's just how the story of our season's gone so far. And obviously having the luxury of Cardiff, obviously at Cardiff away, not the Premier League team in the quarterfinals of the League Cup, is going to allow us to rest big players, Reece James. I think Caicedo will play, but we can rest players against Cardiff and have Moises Caicedo back for Newcastle.
Well, look, this is the perfect game to rotate. Right? And we know that Maresca. So we expect to see Hato play, Josh will play, Caicedo will start, Esteval, Mark Guiu, maybe Jamie Gittin starts. I don't know whether he'll change the keeper. That's a bit of a contentious one for me. I'm not sure that he will, but there's areas on this pitch where Maresca can give players minutes and put a team out that actually is worthy of rotation. No disrespect to Cardiff, but the team that we put out should be good enough to beat them.
Regardless,
Regardless.
And he makes changes, like we said earlier, he makes changes if we win, lose or draw. But this was the game that obviously, if no one's going to look at Maresca and be like, oh my gosh, why are you making 7, 8 changes for this game? Because we need to ahead of what's
absolutely.
coming up.
Enzo Fernandez needs a rest. Cucurella needs a rest. He spoke about, the kind of mileage that they've done since the international break. And you leave the big hitters on the bench anyway. I think you leave them on the bench. If things are going a bit pear-shaped, you bring them on last 30 minutes and then you get the game fixed and sort it out. But I think I'm looking forward to what team he picks for that game, because, again, I still want to see some relationships in that lineup. If you can, even though you are rotating. Esteval's not really played many minutes recently as well, so he probably starts that game. So
this is baffling me a little bit.
He came on against Leeds, gives the ball away. He's going to rotate and look after him. I just thought against Atalanta in particular.
That game was screwed out.
No minutes. It just didn't make any sense.
When you need a goal, it didn't really.
Exactly. You need to win the game and bring on an attacker. But,
and we have, like I've mentioned a few times, we have Moises Caicedo back, and I think that makes obviously it makes such a big difference, especially in a game like Newcastle where you've got the physical players, the aggression. We need him like that. And I think maybe now that he had that Arsenal game where he maybe went a little bit too far, but that aggression I love and I want to see more of.
Can't take it out of him, Liv. That's who he is. There are going to be moments in games where he has to then realise, can I win that ball? Should I be going in this force on this part of the pitch? He will learn. He's still learning, but boy, do we need him back.
He's still young as well. People forget. Still young, Caicedo.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I'm so happy we have him back for that game. All right, that is it for another episode of Inside Chelsea. We'll be back in the new year, straight after the Manchester City game. So we will have a lot to dissect in that time between now and then. Thank you very much for your company. And of course, thank you to these 2 legends, Jason and Matisse. We will see you next time. Have a lovely Christmas and New Year. Up the Chelsea.